So, Ninjago. It's definitely one of my favorite animated shows, mainly because of how much nostalgia I get whenever I watch it. I was addicted to Ninjago. Like, I didn't watch a single episode of Pokemon just because I was too busy watching animated plastic figurines fighting animated plastics human snake hybrids. I have a life, I promise. Anyway, as this is my first video, I decided that I should probably cover the basics first. You know, my favorite seasons, characters, that sort of thing. Before we get into that, please subscribe. Like, please. I have no subscribers, which is sad. I have a bet with my sister, and she thinks that I can't get 3K by the end of the month. I want to see the look of pure, astonishment on her face when she sees that number. So please, for the sake of my dignity, subscribe. By the way, I'm not going to be using any facts here, at all. This is all just my opinion. Now, on with the actual video. Since I don't want this to be an hour-long video, I'm just going to do 3 categories. Also, I'm not going to include Dragons Rising in this because that's just going to be a whole other, video. The first category is going to be my 3 favorite main characters. The second category is going to be my 3 favorite villains. And my third category is going to be my 3 favorite seasons. Going in order, I'm going to begin with my 3 favorite main characters. Feel free to answer these questions in the comments below. Coming in at third place is Lloyd. Now, I can already hear the Lloyd fans outside my house with pitchforks and torches already, but hear me out. Lloyd isn't a bad character, it's just that he could have been so much more. I feel like Lloyd is too generic. All the other ninja have insecurities that make them feel like people. Nia has a need to prove herself, Kai is hot-headed, Zane questions his identity, and so on. But Lloyd, there is literally nothing. The only thing about him that is remotely interesting is the fact that he's the son of Garmadon, but that's for another time. Basically, Lloyd didn't live up to his potential, and that really annoys me. But even Lloyd has his positives. The most prominent one to me is near the end of Crystallized, where he turns into an Oni, because it was really cool to see what Lloyd could have been had he given in to his anger and frustrations. But of course, being the guy he is, he got scared of his new form and instantly turned it off. As Garmadon so eloquently puts it, Lloyd got scared of his own reflection. I really wish I could say that more of Oni Lloyd is coming, but I really can't do that without lying, because at this point, I don't believe that Oni Lloyd is going to make a reappearance. I'm not saying that I don't want it to. I think seeing Lloyd in this form would make his character so much more interesting, but unfortunately, what I want is not always what happens, so yeah. In second place, we have Cole. Cole is a great character for so many reasons. First of all, he has an actual personality, Lloyd. He gets frustrated and upset and angry, which makes him actually fun to watch. Also, his story is so well made and overall interesting. In Season 13, we see that his mother died after telling him to never give up and to fight those who are unjust, which is basically turned into his moral compass for his entire life. In that same season, we see Cole basically turn into an Earth Spinjitzu god, which is one of the best scenes in the entire show. Cole is also a very good leader and has admirable traits. The only detriment he has is in the 3rd season, Rebooted. There was that whole love triangle thing, which ruined what was otherwise a great season for me. But that's not Cole's fault, so it doesn't affect his character too much for me. Also, seeing him and Young Woo throughout season 11 was just the cutest thing and just very wholesome. Cole was basically Young Woo's dad, and watching him teach Woo all of the lessons that Woo taught him was really interesting to watch. Also, Jay was there as the chaotic mom with no sleep and running on pure caffeine, so that was interesting. What I'm trying to say here is that Cole is a good character and we need more Super Spinjitzu moments. And in first place, my favorite main character of all is, drumroll please, Jay. I don't know if a lot of people are going to agree with me on this, but Jay is by far the best main character. His backstory is pretty sad, and he covers up his pain with jokes and humor, which already makes him a really interesting character in my opinion. Also, his powers are just super cool. I would love to see him unlock the ultimate Spinjitzu Cole did at some point, because Jay just doesn't get enough screen time. He was also the first of the ninja to learn how to do Spinjitzu, which was super cool to watch, and proves that he is either the best at thinking stupidly or the most skilled. I know that the former is true, but I've set my mind on believing the latter. Also, can we just take a second to appreciate how chaotic Jay is? The guy literally beat up Unagami at one point and then later got wrecked by normal thugs during the last season. I love how random he is, and he is the one person whose jokes are actually decent or good in the entire show besides Dareth. I'm also a Nia Jay fan, so that's a factor here too. Overall, Jay is just a really good yet underappreciated character, and I think that he really deserves some more screen time in the future, maybe during Dragons Rising. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so those are my favorite heroes. Now we have to cover the villains, and Ninjago has a lot of named villains. I'm pretty sure that there's an entire blog on all of them, but I'm too lazy to count that, so I'm just not going to. Also, Ronan and Moro aren't on this list because I don't really consider them as villains. I think that they're more of neutral characters who can either help or hurt the ninja's efforts. But if they were on this list, they would be number 1 and 2, so yeah. Alright, it's time for unpopular opinion number 1. In third place, we have General Kozu. A lot of people are probably scratching their heads thinking, what the heck is this guy talking about? So, to answer that question, think back a long time ago, all the way back to Season 2, Legacy of the Green Ninja. In this season, we are introduced to General Kozu and his indestructible army of stone warriors. At the time, the ninja were significantly weaker than in current times, so the stone warriors seemed basically impossible to fight. Just for all of you who haven't watched Ninjago or have just forgotten what's happened in the show, Ninjago basically has this running gag of making it so that on the first episode, these villains arrive that the ninja have no way of defeating, and then at the end, they receive a huge power-up and are able to defeat the villains. Season 2 is the first time this happens, so before the finale, everyone was scared for the ninja, because at that stage in time, we didn't know what was going to happen. Ninjago knew the writers could take it anywhere they wanted to, and that element of fear and anxiety was really highlighted with General Kozu, as the ninja hid every time they heard he was around. It was terrifying, and that's why I like General Kozu. Please don't stick a pitchfork in me in my sleep. In second place is Notakon. Notakon is basically an overpowered child predator. To put things into perspective, at that time of Skybound, Notakon was 4,000 years old. Neo was 16. I think that is slightly above the socially accepted age gap. Notakon basically woke up one day and chose to become the Ash Ketchum of Ninjago, except instead of catching Pokemon, he caught souls, and he didn't use Pokeballs, he used a big, menacing skull sword. Each to their own, I guess. In all seriousness, though, I love Notakon just because he's so over the top about literally everything. The regular plot for the villain is to secretly amass power out of the ninja's sight, and when the ninja least expect it, the villains attack Ninjago. But Notakon takes this to a whole other level. First of all, he doesn't hide from the ninja whatsoever. He flaunts his power. And the only reason that the ninja don't defeat him in the first episode is because they can't. He's just too powerful. After this, Notakon straight up kidnaps Nia and Jay and prepares to marry Nia and have Jay as a slave. Then he solos the ninja and one by one traps each of them in his sword. Then he made Ninjago fly, where in the sky, the ninja used underhanded tactics to steal his sword like the true heroes they were. Fast forward to the end, and the only way that the ninja were able to defeat Notakon was by using his own powers against him and wishing that the teapot of Tehran was never found. Basically, the only being that could combat Notakon at his strongest form was himself. Not even the Overlord would have stood a chance, as Notakon controlled reality at that point, which is pretty insane when you think about it. Anyway, that's why I like Notakon. On to my favorite villain in Ninjago. Okay, this might be a common/generic pick, but my favorite villain of Ninjago is none other than Garmadon. Garmadon is like Notakon, but the dial turns to 11. He's been the biggest menace to Ninjago ever since the first season, and he's always kind of there in Ninjago, as in Season 16, we basically just get a montage of Garmadon running around the streets, and people can't really do anything because Garmadon would just vaporize them. I love how he's the one villain who's just so tired of being overpowered that he literally just tries to kick back and have a normal life after Season 10. Also, unlike most villains, Garmadon actually develops morals by the end of Ninjago and decides to help Lloyd and the ninja instead of trying to take over Ninjago. And there's that entire thing with Christopher, which was absolutely adorable, and I loved every second of it. What I'm trying to say here is that Garmadon is a great villain for so many reasons, and I just love him. I'll probably do a video sometime in the future solely about Garmadon, but that's for another time. Again, this is probably a controversial opinion for a lot of people, so again, if your favorite villain isn't Garmadon, let me know who it is in the comments below. Now on to my favorite seasons. This is where things get the most controversial because all of the seasons are good in their own way, except for Season 3. That season was garbage. All jokes aside though, a lot of my opinions on this are going to change over time, so nothing is really set in stone. Keep that in mind as I rank my top 3 favorite seasons. Coming in at third place is Season 8, Sons of Garmadon. I like the season a lot for a lot of reasons. First of all, it was the first time we saw the new looks for all of the characters, which I found really interesting. Lloyd definitely needed the new look, but I feel like they did Jay dirty. Look at him. Anyway, Sons of Garmadon introduced who I think was the best twist villain, Harumi. I think that Harumi was definitely the best twist villain just because no one really saw this coming. Ninjago is known for introducing random side characters into the show just to use them as love interest. Pixel, Skylar, and Harumi. The one difference is that none of said side characters attacked the ninja they were paired with except Harumi. This was a bold choice on the side of Ninjago's creators because Harumi was beloved by a lot of fans, and turning her into a villain was risky, but it worked out in the end. Also, Crystallized happened, and my honest opinion is that Harumi returning was just lazy writing. They needed a villain for every ninja, a villain that was tied to their past in some way. Kai got Asphira, Cole got King Vangelis, Jay got Pythor somehow, and Zane got the mechanic and mystery. Zane really got the short end of the stick, but whatever. The point is, all of the ninja except Nia for some reason got a villain tied to their past, except Jay, but that's because Unagami is a child and Nadakon is trapped in a teapot. And since Pythor was given to Jay and Garmadon already had a role and the Overlord was supposed to be like the final boss, the only option left was Harumi, so they basically just brought her back just for this occasion. Oh, and so that Lloyd could have a love interest, although I do wonder what happened with the whole Akira thing. My second favorite season is season 13, Master of the Mountain. This season is a really interesting one because it's the first time Cole has really been able to shine on his own. Cole's entire thing is lifting other people up, helping them shine. This part of his character is shown all the way back to season 1, where he unlocks his true potential and not only manages to change his perspective of the world, he also changes his dad's perspective. The theme of always helping others achieve their goals has never really left Cole any time to show his own achievements. But Master of the Mountain flipped that on its head. Cole was a star, and he was a good one too. This season has, in my opinion, the best final fight scene in the entirety of Ninjago. Watching Cole realize that he would never be his mother and that he could only be himself before releasing the Spinjitzu burst was just amazing. My one complaint is that all of the ninja went off on their own paths that didn't really come together in the end very well. King Vangelis was also a very good twist villain, although not as good as Harumi. The character design was also very good, specifically the design of the Skull Sorcerer. Like, the entire outfit just went together so well. It was so good. One of my favorite parts is when they try to imitate the whole "you shall not pass" thing from Lord of the Rings, and then Zane realized that it would probably be copyrighted and changed it to "you shall not be granted permission to traverse beyond this point." And then, of course, the show played it off to Zane being Zane. Typical, just typical. And now, for the moment you have all been waiting for, my favorite season of Ninjago is Prime Empire. I don't really know if this is a popular opinion or not, and I don't care. Prime Empire is a masterpiece. I could watch this season on repeat for days and not get bored. My favorite episode is the Speedway 5 billion. It is such a fun episode, and I love it. The entire race is so suspenseful because characters are dying left and right, such as Kai and Cole. It was so creative because really anything went in the race, and it was just perfect. And then there was the dance episode, which was also very entertaining. The part where Cole randomly started dancing with Kai and Lloyd edging away was surprisingly funny, and the whole dance fight bit was very well made. Also, can we take a minute to appreciate Okino? Like, Okino is just such a vibe. He basically feels that he has no purpose in life and kind of just hangs around doing nothing until he realizes that he could be a guide to other players, only to realize that all of said players are way too incompetent, which Okino takes as himself being incompetent. It's just there are layers, okay? And then there's the whole final fight scene where it's Jay versus Unagami, and then it's just this giant sky battle, which ends with Unagami meeting his maker and them talking it out, which is a heartfelt scene. Listen, I like Jay, I like video games, and I like Ninjago, so this is just the perfect season for me. And so we have reached the end of this video. To close out the video, I'm going to be talking about something I think Ninjago did right and something it didn't. I'm going to be starting with something Ninjago did wrong. So this show is great and all, but one glaring mistake that I can't get out of my head is the Elemental Masters from Season 4. And I'm not talking about any of the Ninja or Skylar or Karloff or anyone like that. I'm talking about characters like Gravis, Ash, Tox, characters that had so much potential and were just brushed aside. It would have been so cool to learn more about these characters and their backgrounds. I guess I can't complain too much because there's still a chance that we'll be able to see more of these characters in Dragon's Rising, but I'm not holding my breath. And for something that I think Ninjago did right, I think that the writers excelled when it came to plotline, storytelling, world building, all of that. Because although Ninjago is a bit of a long show, it doesn't feel like it's too stretched out. Everything just falls into place perfectly or close enough. Most of the characters have a good background and everything is just really good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Ninjago. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below, and here's to hoping that Dragon's Rising will be as good as Ninjago, and that this channel does well. Again, subscribe. I need to beat my sister in the bet, 3K by the end of the month. No idea how we're gonna do it, but oh well. See you in the next one.